All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Nate. I also go by Hockey Boy and Nate. We're going to be doing, from now on, tropical updates live here at 8 o'clock Eastern. Of course, today I couldn't because I'm a little bit late. Oh my god, I can hear myself. That gets annoying a little bit. But from now on, we're going to be giving tropical updates at 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time from now on. So the rules are simple, all right? For the people who are watching this after the fact, I'm going to be talking nonstop for the next 20 minutes about whatever I want to talk about here with the tropics. And then afterwards, we're going to have a Q&A. We're going to talk a little bit about what all is going to be happening with the weather. And then we'll end the live stream there. But for the most part, for the people who are in the chat right now, it's going to be nonstop. We're going to be talking about what all is happening here across the board, across the Atlantic Basin, as well as where I think the major impacts could potentially be for any of these tropical systems, if there's going to be anything major. And so I hope you guys bear with me. Like and subscribe, share this with friends and family, and on social media. Follow me on social media. Link is in the description down below. And one final thing is that this is all the stuff on my channel. Of course, I'm not an official professional, so if you want to know information for your specific area, please look at your local National Weather Service office, or if you are going to be impacted by these tropical systems or even severe systems, either go to the National Hurricane Center's website. They'll be able to give you a bunch of stuff, or the Storm Prediction Center. They'll be able to get you a bunch of severe weather stuff as well. Anyways, let's take a look at the Atlantic Basin around here. I'm a little bit rusty, so bear with me as I continue to talk this with you all. But we have two areas to watch here. We have one area here, which is the remnants of Fred. That's kind of off of the coast of Cuba and the Florida Peninsula right now. It's kind of doing its own little thing, but nothing really too much as of what it was supposed to do. And then we have Tropical Storm Grace right here, which isn't exactly the biggest thing that is... It's not the most attractive tropical system I've ever seen in my entire life. And so, yeah, there was supposed to be a window of opportunity if you were watching other weather YouTubers. They were talking about how there was going to be a window of opportunity for this thing to intensify as it got closer and closer to Puerto Rico. It's kind of been fiddling with itself a little bit. It's been doing the jig, and it's been doing the jig completely wrong. It's kind of like your awkward friend that you don't really want to take out in public, but you have to anyways, and he kind of embarrasses you. Yeah, that's kind of what these tropical systems have been like for the past week for all of us on YouTube. So it's a bit of a headache to forecast these things in the weather community, but let's try it little by little. Let us go over... if I can, this is the satellite imagery, not the right satellite imagery. So let's just go to the water vapor imagery. This is the remnants of Fred right here. And a couple things that I want you guys to look out for. First things first, I want you guys to pay attention to the clouds and how they move through the atmosphere. So, you're going to see a bit of a troughing action right here that's going to follow right along that line as I draw it. So the clouds are literally going to move that way. You're also going to have this ridging axis right here to where there's going to be a bit of a high pressure that's going to set up over here in Cuba. This right here is going to be the remnants of Fred. There's going to be our low-level circulation, which is right here at this first L, and then this other L over here in Cuba is your mid-level circulation. What you want for hurricanes is you want those to typically be vertically aligned, where you have your low-level and mid-level circulation right on top of each other. If they don't have that, then it's not exactly the best thing in the world to really look at. It's not going to really intensify anything further, and the reason why that happens is because of wind shear. And so trough is a good indication of some strong wind shear. Anywhere in between a trough and a ridge is some good wind shear, so watch out for that. And then, of course, anything else to notice, you got a lot of showers and thunderstorms across the board. So let's play the GIF here. You can see exactly that. I mean, look at this. You got your troughing motion with your strong winds moving from down all the way curling up. That way you have your ridge where your clouds are moving around this way, so you got your big high pressure that's going to be starting to set in here. And then this right here is what we were supposed to be watching out for. Not exactly all too much activity on a tropical perspective here. There was a bit, as I said, of a low-level circulation down here and I would assume it would have to be about here where the actual convection is, but it's not exactly all too organized. It's a bit more of an elongated style system, so it's to say it's trying would be an understatement, but it also would be an overstatement at the same time, because it's not in the best environment right now to do some stuff. But the big thing here is that once it moves into the Gulf of Mexico, once it moves a bit further away from Cuba into these warm and unstable waters, then it could potentially start to intensify a little bit further. And the thing about it is this trough right here, it's not going to stay here permanently. It's actually going to recede a bit further into the United States, and that'll allow this tropical system, or Fred as we know it, to kind of seep in and head towards the general vicinity of, say, Biloxi, Mobile, and Pensacola. Now, the interesting thing about this is if we actually take a look at the HWRF model, we have a good indication as to what one model guidance does think that this will actually end up hitting. And so this model right here actually thinks that this tropical system could make landfall somewhere just to the east of Pensacola. You can see a lot of these strong rain bands on this side that are surging into Florida. And that's the one thing that I wanted to talk about here in addition to Fred. The thing of it is with Fred is that this isn't going to be a whole complete system. It's going to basically have one side of the storm with a bunch of showers and thunderstorms, and the other side with not a whole lot. And the reason why I say that is because if we go back to the water vapor imagery here, actually, I don't think we'll be able to see it as much. So why don't we try and go to the long wave IR if we can, infrared. Yeah, this is able to tell it right here. Okay, so you guys see these little snaky lines right along the outside of the storm. This is a good indication of a gust front that starts to form, and this is what you typically see with severe weather. And the reason why we have this there is because there's quite a bit of dry air in the Gulf of Mexico at the moment. That is most likely going to be the reason as to why the western side of this tropical system is not going to have as many showers and thunderstorms. And so it's going to basically be the eastern half that's dominated with showers and thunderstorms, the western half that's going to be not exactly mainly clear skies. You could have some like showers and thunderstorms that move on through, but they're like, it's going to be very, very small. It's not exactly going to be widespread compared to the counterparts to the east. So we have a good indication that dry air is seeping into the system with these little snaky outflow boundary lines here. And even if we play it again and again, you can see these little snaky outflow boundary lines over and over. And so that's just a good indication of what this thing is dealing with. You can also see the counterclockwise motion of this system. Not exactly anything too impressive, but you can see how these storms are trying to gather some sort of counterclockwise motion. Not exactly doing a great job with it. Very weak shear here. Very weak westerly shear here at the southern side of the system. And the one thing that I actually want to try and find here, that was Grace, but I want to see if I can try and bring up a website here. And if I'm able to get it, then I might be able to show you all something that might actually help out a little bit. And this does not help out all too much. Let us try that. Yeah, that doesn't help. That's still not helping. Yeah, I can't exactly find the best satellite imagery here for you all. If I had a better scan, I probably would be able to give you all a general idea as to what is happening with this system. But unfortunately, I think it's that time of day where the pass of the satellite just completely misses it. So the point being is here with Fred is that it's not exactly a closed off circulation. You got some bits and bobs of convection, especially with the mid-level rotation over here near Havana, but otherwise it's not exactly all too organized. So that's the good news for Fred. The bad news is, as I mentioned before, impacts is possible here within the portions of Louisiana all the way over towards the peninsula of Florida. The reason why I include the peninsula is because these outer bands of Fred will eventually steer into that general vicinity, especially with that trough that's going to be moving through. And so you could have a bit of an enlarged tornado threat as this continues to move about. Not exactly like the biggest tornado threat in the world, but it still could create some impacts within your general vicinity. So I definitely watch out for that. Big few things that I also want to talk about with this. Jeez, I almost said tornado. No tropical storm watches or warnings in effect for Fred. But we do want to mention that this thing does strengthen back into a tropical depression and then even a tropical storm as it gets closer and closer towards the coast. So places like Gulfport, places like Mobile, places like Pensacola, you guys really need to watch out for this system in regards to a landfall. But if this thing ends up going to the east of you, then you guys aren't really going to be impacted as much because, as I said, you're not going to have as many showers and thunderstorms on the western side. There's going to be that dry air that's infiltrating, and for tropical systems, that dry air typically kills that. And so that's the good news for all of that. But that's just the one thing that I wanted to mention here for you all with this of Fred, that it's still here, it's trying, it's going to be kind of one of those things similar to Elsa. I didn't cover Elsa all too much, but Elsa had a lot of dry air seeping in behind it, and so it was almost like half of the storm ended up being the Rainmaker, and the other half ended up not being such. So one thing with that. Now, if we go over to the intensity guidance here for Fred, most of the models do tend to agree that this thing will end up becoming a tropical storm as the floor, and maybe even a mid-end tropical storm as it heads closer and closer towards the coast. There are 3 models that do think that it could be at or below tropical storm status. A couple other people even think that as well. But a lot of these models actually do agree that this will mainly stay below a Category 1 hurricane strength, maybe about 60 mile per hour winds as the ceiling, and then the floor would be about tropical storm status at 40 miles per hour. So really something that I did want to mention for you all there. Rainfall rates, this is for the next 5 days. It's going to take about 5 days to get over there, so there's going to be a lot of rain that's going to be accumulating ahead of time. And you can already see with the amounts here on the coast of the panhandle of Florida, you can see how it actually gets to rain rates above 6 inches. There's even a little bit of a red dot on the in the Gulf of Mexico that's above 10 inches there. I'm actually expecting that to potentially leak in towards Florida, so maybe some localized flooding as well as some storm surge as well. That's possible. Maybe an upwards of 2 feet of storm surge for areas along the coast. And so localized flooding will be an issue with these storms, especially if you live here in the panhandle of Florida. So if you know anyone who lives in the panhandle of Florida, I highly recommend telling them that Fred may be looking dead right now, but it could potentially revive itself a little bit later on and cause some localized flooding issues, maybe a chance for a couple tornadoes, and definitely some damaging straight line winds to knock over some, trees and power lines. So really something that you guys are going to want to hunker down for. Now, here's the other thing here for you all. And you guys might have actually thought that this was the only tropical system, but oh no. Oh no, there is another one. And there is, this one is looking a lot better than than Fred, I'll tell you that. You got Grace right here, which I saw a lot of people on Twitter give a lot of bashing to the hurricane hunters and as to why they weren't going through the main convection. And they were trying to figure out, well, why aren't they going through the main convection? Well, they don't have to go to the main convection all the time. They just have to identify the center area of low pressure and the circulation and just go from there. And they found out that the center area of low pressure, the low level circulation, is actually south of the main convection. And so the big thing there is that if we take a look at this system, look at this. Big time convection here heading off into the Lesser Antilles, heading off towards Puerto Rico. Here's Puerto Rico, speaking of which. And look at that. You get some cloud tops above, or actually below, negative 80 degrees Celsius. Those are some very robust thunderstorms that are reaching into the upper parts of the atmosphere. Very tall thunderstorms. But the one thing they figured out is that the center area of low pressure is actually somewhere about here. That's right around where they think it's actually at. And so it can be a little bit confusing with this storm. It's been poorly organized for the most part, especially since they have done a bit of aircraft reconnaissance into the system. And you can see how it originally was up here. This was the convection that they were talking about. And then they found the area of low pressure just a bit south of it. And so that's the one thing that we gotta, take into account, is that the main batch of convection, all the strong damaging winds and strong thunderstorms, are on the northern edge of the system. And you even got some strong damaging thunderstorms on the southern side as well, too. So it's kind of sandwiched in between these two batches of convection. And if you can start wrapping it around, that's when you can start talking about this thing to potentially intensify further. But the one thing that I will talk about here, and we'll go to the GFS to show you all what I mean by this, is that if we take a look at the, we'll go, how should we explain this? We'll go 500 millibar geopotential height. Yeah, I think this should be good. So, the one thing with this here is that this is Grace forecasted right now. This is Grace. Here's the mess of Fred. And Grace is anticipated to kind of meander its way through, closer and closer towards Puerto Rico. And you can see how it starts to gather a bit more of its vorticity, but it's not consolidated whatsoever. You still have those batches of thunderstorms that are going to be moving about all over the place. But the one thing here is that now you've got a bit of your ridge right here that's starting to develop, and then you have this trough that's going to be pushing on through here relatively soon, which would be right about, if I am looking at this correctly, right here. That looks about right, I believe. I'm trying to find it here. No, you got your trough right about here. So there you go. So this tropical system isn't really going to be steered anywhere else besides the same areas that Fred went over. And if you guys paid attention to what happened to Fred, it went over Hispaniola and it interacted with a lot of the mountains over there, and the mountains tore the storm apart. It literally shredded it completely, to the point where that's where Fred is now. It's the remnants of Fred. It's still forecasted to kind of, revamp itself eventually, but it still kind of tore itself apart because it went over the mountains of Hispaniola. And so that's the one thing to mention there. The second thing that I wanted to mention with this is that in the other aspect, if we look at it on the opposite side of the coin, Hispaniola is going to be impacted here, and they just got hit by a magnitude 7 earthquake that demolished countless buildings over there. So you're going to have some pretty exponential flood rates over there as well if those thunderstorms decide to meander, similar to what Fred did as well. So you really got to watch out for Haiti and the Dominican Republic as well, because this is really something that is kind of the worst case scenario. I mean, if you got hit by a strong earthquake that damaged a lot of your infrastructure that would be, sheltering you from these types of storms, and then getting hit by one of these storms right afterwards, that's kind of the worst case scenario, more or less. So one of those things where I'm praying for the people over there in Hispaniola, Haiti, Dominican Republic. Really got to watch out for that. They even had a 1 to 3 foot tsunami over there as well, or potential for that as well. So really one of those things to where it's unfortunate, very unfortunate, as that continues to move about. But yeah, big thing here is we do have a bit of a ridge setting up right about here. So this is where the clockwise motion is. Bit of a high pressure here, bit of a high pressure here. Actually, the high pressure is kind of more up there. So it's kind of sitting right at that ridge. But then you have this huge trough that's going to be coming on through off of the coast. and that'll kind of steer this thing potentially to the same area to where Fred was going, maybe even a bit further into the Gulf. We'll have to see with this latest model run, but you can see how after it moves through Hispaniola, you can't really tell where this thing went. You can't really tell. But then the model run, the interesting thing about the model run is that it actually takes this tropical system, and a lot of the vorticity ends up going over here towards towards the southern portion of the Gulf of Mexico. So it's really something that we got to watch out for as this continues to progress. And if we go to the simulated precip, you know, there's your tropical system, very broad tropical system that ends up going into the Mexico vicinity, northern parts of Mexico. So it's just one of those things where we really have to watch this closely. I'm going to show you guys the previous model run and show you all what the GFS actually said was going to happen, because this is kind of bonkers in itself. It's not just, you know, one system that went about. This is Grace right here that was anticipated after it hit Hispaniola. And look at this. It ended up being a 993 tropical system as it went across the Florida Keys, and then it started to rapidly intensify further and further to like a 946 heading off towards Corpus Christi. So that's the uncertainty factor right now that we're faced with. That's the reason why the entire portion of the Gulf of Mexico and even parts of the East Coast is not exactly done and over with, but I do foresee that trough kind of steering the tropical system a bit more either into Florida or the Gulf of Mexico. So we really got to watch out for that. Florida 100% needs to start watching this for the next week and a half. That's the big thing that we got to watch out for. But the rest of the Gulf of Mexico right here, after this tropical system gets to Florida, where is it going to move next? Is it going to continue to move off into the Gulf of Mexico like this run here from the GFS said? Or is it going to ride up similar to what Elsa and Fred did, end up heading towards places like Mobile, Biloxi, and stuff like that? That's the big question right there that we have from these storms. I want to take a look and see if I can provide a little bit better idea as to what is happening with Grace here. So if I can do that, I think I can. That's a bit better. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's good. I think that should be good. So, the interesting thing here about Grace is... yeah, I don't think this is good enough. I might actually have to need... is there another one? I'd have to see here. It's Metop A, so that's very similar to what we last saw. Metop B. No, we don't have a new one. So that's the unfortunate thing about technology, but we'll be having more updates tomorrow, and I'll be uploading a video tomorrow morning as well. So that's the thing about it there. But the interesting thing here with this tropical system is that we do have some 35 knot winds at the surface with this tropical system, according to satellite imagery. So that's still tropical storm strength. 35 knots is 40 mile per hour winds there. So we'll have to continue to monitor the strength and how this thing continues to move along forward. I still think that right about here, you can see how the winds are moving a bit due south, but then these other winds are moving off towards the west. That's going to spell a little bit of inconsistency for whether or not this thing can really organize quickly, because it's running out of time before it starts to lose a bit of its momentum and not exactly, intensify further. So that's the big thing there with this tropical system. Is that all I really want to talk about? I heard there's a new invest here. You guys are looking at it in the chat. And there's the new invest right there. So apparently this is Invest 96L. And that's the one other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit later. This one isn't exactly as important as Fred and Grace. But the reason why this thing forms is because that trough that moves on through that I was talking about, that trough typically associates itself with a low pressure system, and the low pressure system kind of just sits out here in the middle of nowhere. So places like Bermuda could potentially get a tropical system a bit later on, and maybe even get some of those tropical conditions that it hasn't really had this entire year. But regardless as to whether or not it gets it then or now, it's still most likely going to be the case eventually. So that's the big thing there. 48 hours from now, it has a 20% chance formation. 5 days, 30% chance. So not exactly a big thing as of right now, but you could see this thing be a sleeper and develop a little bit later. Okay, so if you're watching this after the fact, that is the end of the nonstop segment of me talking about this tropical system. You guys can have a good night. For the people who are here live with me answering questions, this is a Q&A time. If you guys have any questions as to where this thing could impact, stuff like that, feel free to ask. Because I want to try and get you guys as much information as possible, if I can. If you guys haven't already, please be sure to like and subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. Stuff like liking and subscribing is just, it helps out my channel a lot. So, that would be greatly appreciated. Especially if I can get the word out a bit more efficiently. How's Linda? So Linda, that's an interesting thing right there. Linda is hanging on there. It's still a category 4 at the moment. 130 mile per hour winds, 950 millibar system. This thing exactly isn't, it's not going to impact Hawaii. That's the good news here. But it's still pretty powerful. And if we go over to the infrared satellite imagery and take a look at Hurricane Linda, look at this eye here, guys. I mean, look at this. Whew. That thing is packing some heat. So if I can load up the infrared imagery here a lot quicker. There we go. Look at this thing. Got some strong, deep convection on the western side here, the western eye wall. Very, very circular eye as well. That is a good sign of it being pretty healthy. Now, the only thing about it is that it's not equally distributed with its convection. You can see how you got a lot of this dark red and even some blacks within that. That's some very strong, deep convection right there. Very strong thunderstorm activity. But this eye, very, very circular. That is a good thing for this thing in regards to intensification. A couple things that I want to mention here. I talk about in some of my videos these little feathers right here. These little feather characteristics that come off of tropical systems. Now you can see it across the board here around this entire tropical system. This is a sign of a healthy tropical system. It's not exactly, category 5 strength there, but, it still looks pretty gnarly, doesn't it? So this is a very strong tropical system. I mean, I'm not sure about you guys, but that's pretty satisfying to look at. Another thing that I want to show you guys a little bit is these little, whenever these swirls kind of bend in a little bit like that, that's your subvortices that actually rotate around the eye of the system. And for most of you all who are like wondering, well, what is subvortices? Subvortices in a hurricane? Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't a hurricane just like one spinning top? And it is a giant spinning top. But the thing of it is it has little mini tornadoes that rotate around the eye. And if that doesn't terrify you already, then it already does. I don't know what does, because that's definitely scary. And I want to chase these things. What am I doing? So, that's the thing right there, is that this tropical system is definitely packing a bit of a punch here. But stuff is definitely starting to seed within it. Let's see. Impact for South Florida from Grace. So Grace, depending upon where you are in South Florida, could determine as to what your specific impacts are. So I definitely think the Keys will be impacted by, I'll say the remnants of this. I'm not exactly sure in regards to how this thing will progress over Hispaniola, because as I mentioned, they have the big mountains over there that destroyed Fred, and Fred kind of just turned into the remnants within the past couple of days. So that's the one thing there that I want to mention, is that once this thing starts to really move, then we'll be able to determine as to where this will be able to actually impact. But as for right now, I think the Keys could definitely be impacted. I think Miami and the Everglades, those specific spots, could potentially see some outer bands of these storms. I don't think it'll be significant, but I do think that you guys could see something. And then as you start to head further north and north, I think your threat will begin to diminish. The one thing I can say for certain, for the most part, is that areas near Duval, Jacksonville, stuff like that, I think you guys should be fine in the clear from this tropical system. I believe that is there's a high probability that you guys will most likely be in the clear from this system. And I think that's the same thing from the East Coast as well. From Jacksonville north all the way up towards Wilmington, North Carolina, I think you guys are going to be in the clear from this tropical system. I really think this tropical system will end up heading across and either nip the southern part of Florida or stay out here in the Caribbean and eventually head off into the Gulf of Mexico. And that's the reason why in my thumbnail I highlighted everywhere in the Gulf of Mexico, because, well, for the United States, because this thing can go anywhere. And we've seen on multiple different model runs, this thing could turn on a dime and even intensify on a dime too. So it's just one of those things where we need to get the information out as much as possible. Will Bomb get any weather from Fred/Grace? I'd have to see where Bomb is. Oh, the Bahamas. Makes sense. I think the southern portions of the Bahamas could. I definitely think that would be the case. I think the northern portions could get... I think everywhere actually could get some outer bands. I definitely think that is a possibility. I don't think they'll be directly impacted, though, honestly. If we take a look at a couple other... let's actually take a look at the ensemble guidance for Grace here real quickly. And we'll take a look here, and you can see a lot of these model tracks take this relatively about where I said it would be. The floor would be about the Everglades, the Miami, Keys, further down south. And then anywhere north of that, you know, where the main areas of the Bahamas actually are, the northern main areas of the Bahamas, you guys are kind of spared for the most part. But yeah, everywhere else further south of oh, what's the island? Everywhere further south of the Grand Bahama areas, I think you guys could definitely see some stuff. Now, the Bahamas itself, you know, Nassau, I think you guys could potentially see some bands. But this is the ensemble guidance, and it either takes it south of Hispaniola, right through Hispaniola, or the one model that just decides to go ape and stay out over land, which if it, or not over land, over water, which if that's the case, that thing will intensify further, be relatively significant. You can see a significant tropical system on the southern end of Florida. But that's the that's a bit of an outlier at the moment. Although we do like to take a look at all sorts of different situations and be open-minded. But that's just the one thing there with these model runs, is that a lot of these have kind of stayed right within here. I do think that'll be the case. What do I think the chances of Grace hitting Miami? Fred brought us nothing. Will be that lucky again. I mean, you guys could potentially see something, but I think it'll be more or less outer bands. Do I think Grace has any chance of going over to Texas or even South Texas? I actually do think it does have a chance. A couple of the model runs have said that it'll actually head over towards Corpus Christi. So anywhere from Corpus Christi and north, that general vicinity, that would be a bit of a concerning issue for you all, especially with flooding. But other than that, that's the only model run I've seen that actually has went out to Texas. Now, I do want to take a look at one more thing here from Weatherbell. So if you guys would bear with me here. Sign in. There we go. All right, got that. We're going to take a look at the ATCF. We're going to take a look at Grace. And here's a bit of a zoomed out guidance of most of the ensemble members. And so we have about five models that take it south of Cuba into the Yucatan Peninsula. Eventually over, Grand Cayman and over towards Cozumel, that general vicinity. But then we also have a lot of these models that really like this track right here. We have a lot of models that really like this track. And I'd have to honestly, I think this is more of a likelihood, especially going through all this land again. I think that's going to be the pathway it takes. It'll go over Hispaniola again. And then, to be completely honest with you, I think it'll do the exact same thing that Fred will do, except for the fact that, it won't completely die out. I think it'll have the opportunity to go back over land again, because it won't have that trough that Fred experienced earlier. So I think it'll be able to recycle to the north, because it's over water. Typically, when stuff is over water, it tends to form a lot quicker in regards to weather and stuff like that. And so I think it'll be able to reform off to the north of Cuba. It'll be able to ride along Cuba, go through the Keys, and then that's when you can watch out for the stuff like this to happen again. It might even continue to move off this way as well. So that's the reason why, as I said, I circled this entire area here on my thumbnail, because it's really hard to say for sure as to where this thing is going to go after it moves through Hispaniola and Cuba. Didn't know you were live? Yeah, from now on, guys, I'm going to be doing 8 o'clock tropical weather updates. So 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. If you guys are able to come out to it, feel free to do so. That's what I'm going to be doing from now on. I'll also be uploading these little videos either in the early morning hours or in the late morning into the early afternoon hours. Give you guys like a little update. Just something of the sort. I'm going to be experimenting with different video ideas. Because I'm going to be completely honest with you all. with me going on vacation, that kind of dented my my channel in regards to viewership and stuff like that. So I need to figure out multiple ways to where I can still get the information out, but I also can appeal to an audience, like a much larger audience. Because obviously we want to grow. Obviously we want to get the information out as much as possible, but it's just haven't really been doing a whole lot. Impacts for the Southeast Dominican Republic? Highly likely. Highly likely, and it'll be within the next 2 days. Thoughts on when we could see our first major hurricane in the Atlantic if Grace doesn't form into that, like some people suggest? I think the golden time for it to form would be sometime in the beginning to mid-September. Let's actually go over to tropical. Let's go over to the empirical wave propagation and see when the next window of opportunity for tropical activity is going to happen. So, according to the EWP, after late August into early September, we're going to be in a bit of a drought where there isn't as much rising motion in the air until mid to late part of September. So actually, mid part of September is right around when I could say that we can start getting some tropical systems that could potentially go into big time tropical activity for the Atlantic, I should say. That's according to the EWP. What about the CFS? CFS actually lingers a bit, so it actually says that it could potentially have it could actually stay about the same. So yeah, I'd say middle of September. Middle of September is when I actually think it could happen. Yeah, I saw the 12Z run. 12Z GFS is crazy. Mass Dog, see you later. Thanks for coming out to the stream. Yeah, Arizona's been hit hard with all sorts of flooding. That monsoon's been crazy. was looking for La Rose, Louisiana. I think you guys will be fine from Fred. From Grace, I actually, it's a bit hard for me to say. Linda just got downgraded. Did it really? Did it really? Yeah, there you go. So what we were talking about earlier with that that band on the western side, it hasn't, you know, regained that full strength to where it had a complete band of deep convection. And so that's the reason why the National Hurricane Center most likely downgraded this a little bit to a Category 3. I'd actually agree with that. Nate's favorite word, vicinity. I mean, I say it a lot, don't I? How long am I staying live tonight? I'll be live for, we'll go for another half an hour. Something like that. How far can I see into the future? With tropical systems, it's very hard to see past 5 days. I'll try and see as much as possible. I know for a fact that the tropical system, whether it's dead or alive, will eventually head off into the Gulf of Mexico within the next week. That I know for certain. Where it will exactly hit, that is the real question. Sup, Jeff? Nice to see you around. Nice to see you around. Let's take a look at our nice little channel here. See what we got here. Hey, we got a subscriber. If you're not subscribed already, you should be. You should. Appreciate the subscription. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're gonna be waiting here for the advisory for Grace here. Wonder if the 11 p.m. advisory will push the cone for Grace further north or south. That's gonna be interesting too. Let's clear a bunch of our tabs here. Must be an eyesore for most people. While we are on the subject, there's a reason why I didn't show you guys this. And it's because it's way too inconsistent. Here's the intensity guidance for Grace. And I think you guys can understand why it's inconsistent. There's this one model that's casually up here in Category 4 status. You have a couple models that think it'll become a Category 1 hurricane, even in the latter stages of its lifespan. A lot of them say it will maintain as a tropical storm. So that's the one thing. That's the one thing to make a note of. But yeah, you can see why I didn't show you guys this. Just not exactly, there's no point. No point. Let's go on to Twitter. Yeah, so there's the advisory for Linda. Could Ohio get leftovers of Fred? They definitely could, I believe. I'd have to take a look at the, open the link in a new tab. There you go. So, it'll become subtropical by the time it actually heads over for you all, but you guys could potentially get some severe weather along that if you could have a trough that meets up with it, which wouldn't be surprising, honestly. No, the HWRF model was the first model to get the recon data from today, and it did a total flip. Do you think the other models may flip to the north with the new data? I definitely think that could be the case. That's the reason why I'm favoring more of a Hispaniola approach. If we go back over to, there's Grace. I'm favoring a lot more of an Hispaniola approach, honestly. And then I think that this thing will reform somewhere on the northern edge of Cuba, unless if this thing continues to move towards the middle of the cone. If it goes to the middle of the cone, then this thing most likely will pull another Fred. But I think this, by the time it gets over to Cuba, I think it'll be able to recycle and form another center area of low pressure, low level circulation on the northern end of Cuba, and push off that way. I think that'll be a much higher likelihood as this continues to move about. Why was 2020 such an active hurricane season? Because most of the temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico were above average. Actually, the entire time, the temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico were above average. So you had a lot of energy that needed to be exhausted. And that's how the tropical systems were made. They kind of just poof. Magic. Let's take a look at the Euro ensemble model guidance here. And I want to point out a couple things here too, because I can already see a couple things that I want to talk about here. No hitter for the Diamondbacks. Sheesh. That's surprising. That's really surprising. I want to talk about a couple things here. First off, let's talk about the model members here from the Euro model. It's the same thing, spaghetti models that we're looking at. Every single, little noodle is a different run. And so this model ended up having 50 different types of runs. It's like 50 different types of opinions that this thing has. And so I can see 5 opinions on here that take it to hurricane status. And I can see it looks to be about 11 opinions that take it to tropical storm status. But the thing about that is notice how there's a lot of green here near Cuba and Hispaniola. And then notice that there's the blue and even the orange up here. All right. So we have, let's create the arrow. Blues over here. And we had the greens over here. Okay. You guys with me so far? Very good. What that means is with those colors, that actually indicates the pressures, the lowest pressure of each system. And so, typically you need hurricanes to be 985 millibars or lower in order to be a tropical system, like just a general tropical system, like a hurricane-ish. Lower than that, yeah, probably about 980. We'll go 980 as a rough, because we've seen 983s go to hurricane status as well, but that's not the point. All right, point being is that's typically around the time or the level for which it could become a hurricane. So if you see any of these instances become orange, like some of these areas over here, let's actually circle it with orange, shall we? So we have orange right here, and then we have orange right here. Okay? Notice how with these systems over here, the blue and orange, it avoids Hispaniola. Most of these models start by going over here. And here, if we go erase this little circle, there's Hispaniola right there. So these ensemble members take it north of Hispaniola, ends up turning into a hurricane. Meanwhile, the other members that go through Hispaniola and stay close enough with Cuba, we'll indicate this is black for now, they stay green all the way through until they either get off the coast of Cuba or they move further into the Gulf of Mexico and eventually off into Corpus Christi. The big thing there is that the Dominican Republic and Haiti will most likely get impacted every single time. So if you live over there, you guys need to get into some form of shelter. All right, that's the big thing right there. But it's a tale of two stories here. Will it stay north of Hispaniola and become a powerful tropical system? Or will it stay along the coasts of the Greater Antilles? And will it weaken further? That's the big thing. There is, remnants of Fred advisory 22 right there. So Fred just got a new advisory here. Let's clear out. I said I was going to clear out my tabs earlier. I didn't. So let's do that here. Let's clear out a couple. There's Fred. So 35-mile-per-hour storm right there. Remnants of Fred expected to redevelop into a tropical storm over the Gulf of Mexico on Sunday. Which, yes, that's exactly what we saw. Yeah. With Haiti getting hit with a magnitude 7 earthquake on top of being hit with another tropical system. That's just unfortunate, too. Praying for them. Honestly, praying for them. But yeah, this thing is definitely pretty interesting. What are my thoughts on Grace? I think Grace is disorganized and will have to walk a thin tightrope in order for it to become significant soon. It definitely could try to become significant later, but unless if Grace goes north of Hispaniola, I foresee this doing the same exact thing as Fred until it gets to Cuba. And then once it gets to Cuba, it'll reorganize on the northern shore of Cuba, and then it'll go back on its trajectory. Whether or not it'll impact this area of the Gulf of Mexico, whether or not it'll impact, Texas like the 12Z GFS did, who knows? But the big thing here is this is the area to watch. These areas are going to be impacted. Areas outlined in kind of the blue highlight is in a tropical storm warning. And then areas outlined by the yellow highlighter is in a tropical storm watch. So if you guys are over there, guys really need to monitor this very closely. That's AWIPS. I do not want to pull up AWIPS. I want to pull up Google Maps here. Refresh the feed. So it looks like Gonzo is done. That's the good news there. That most of these models are now going to start getting some of the data that the Hurricane Hunters have got. Now the thing of it is that the GFS model actually doesn't start running until a lot later this evening, even into tomorrow. So we might not actually see the GFS until tomorrow morning, which, as I said, I will be uploading a video tomorrow morning updating you all as to what is going to be happening. It'll be a bit of a shorter video. And then, as I said, from now on, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we'll be having non-stop tropical updates until the end of I guess the end of the tropical season. It going that far north of Hispaniola will eventually hurt the storm. With the Tut, best chances it skins Hispaniola, northern coast becomes something interesting over. Yeah, and that's the only thing about it, though, is that it's got to skim it. All right, that's the one thing there. All right. Looking at most of the models, we'll go. That's how we want to run it. No, sir, that's not what we're gonna want to do. Let's do 8. Let's do 854. That should be good enough, right? Yeah, it should be fine. So the thing of it is that here's your very strong shear here. This is going to be, pretty killer across the board. Well, there we go. Pretty killer across the board. And here's your Tut that Adrian's talking about. It's going to be pushing on through. If this tropical system goes that far north, then it could potentially, of course, you know, start to deteriorate a little bit. But if it can ride along this area right here, like what the some models are saying, some ensemble models are saying, it could potentially have a little bit of a gray area and maybe even strengthen further. But it's going to be very close. It's going to be very, very close. And the other thing, too, is what's actually preventing this thing from moving off further north anyways is this other trough that's going to be moving through by the end of next week. So this will be steering it off as well, if it even decides to go that far north. But it probably won't. And the GFS is having a whale of a time trying to depict as to what is happening as well. Does anyone know when the HWRF model at 0Z actually starts running? And why did I get texted? Oh, it's Snapchat. It's Snapchat. Not that big of a deal. Point being is, though, is that areas that have been completely smacked over and over again, most likely going to need to watch out for these storms, especially Haiti. 100% Haiti. Interest in the northern coast of the Gulf of Mexico from Mississippi, Central Florida Panhandle should monitor the progress of remnants of Fred. Watches and warnings continue to be required for portions. Yep, 100%. 100%. Nate is back? Yeah, I know, right? I'm even surprised. Yeah, as I said, we're going to be doing tropical updates every day, 8 o'clock Eastern, from now until the end of tropical season. And that'll just be our thing. So if you guys want to catch me live talking about tropical weather, come out 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I get to hear your thoughts as well. We get to just talk about weather. I know that sounds like a nerd thing to do, but trust me, it's not as bad. It's not as bad as you think. See. Heat content goes as deep as 150 meters of direct path. Slow down to Cuba, all the way to Alabama. Trough will push north, decreasing shear. Yep. And as I said, that system is really going to be one of those things to where one half of the storm is going to get something, the other half isn't. We'll go to the GFS and show you Fred, because I think it does a little bit of a better job depicting impacts here. Well, excuse me. Excuse me for asking. Okay, here's Fred again. All right, this, as I said, little bit better job depicting as to the impacts with Fred. So here's the actual bit, tropical tidbit. Little little play on words there. There's a little tropical tidbit for Fred. And you can see half of the tropical system has a bunch of rain. The other half doesn't. We were talking about how there was a bit of dry air on the western side of the system and how it was going to be seeping into the storm. And it's just kind of, going to be making this a lot more subtropical than tropical, although it will be tropical as it heads through. So it's going to be like on the border. Some people are going to claim that it's going to be really subtropical, but I mean, it'll have the opportunity to stay tropical as long as it continues to stay over this warm water. So that's the one thing there. Katrina 2.0 on the Gulf of Mexico. I wouldn't have to say so as of right now. I know we're on the anniversary of it, but the big thing here is that as this continues to head further north, you can see here's the major portion of the rain. There's a little bit of rain here on the western side, but big parts of the rain here is in from Pensacola and further westward. So honestly, I think one thing that is for certain is if you're in Mexico City Beach, that general vicinity, all the way over to Pensacola, and even further east of that, I think you guys are definitely going to be impacted. I definitely think you guys are going to be impacted by the tropical system. In regards to the intensity, that's a little bit of a fishy thing. But I'm really confident that areas from Pensacola and eastward, anywhere within this vicinity right here, I think you guys could definitely be impacted. And let's just name off some areas here. As I said, Pensacola all the way over. Why are town names not showing up? Places. There we go. No? Is it not? Oh yeah, there it is. So Panama Beach and areas over there as well. Cone shifted north, you think, for Grace? Would not be surprised if that's the case. That's my anime background. Yeah, IEMBot. Grace Advisory 7. Let's take a look. Poorly organized Grace now moving a bit slower. Heavy rainfall across the Lesser and Greater Antilles remains a primary threat over the next few days. Yeah, look at that. It went further north. It went further north. So instead of this thing dipping around like this, it's now took a bit more of a northwestern trajectory, west-northwest trajectory. This is the opportunity for it to intensify a little bit further. I mean, it's in a not as significant shear. I mean, of course, you know, it's not pristine condition for it to like rapidly intensify by any stretch of the imagination. I would not say so, but I definitely think if it was the time for it to at least gain a little bit of traction before it gets some land interaction, I think it would be now. So maybe a little bit of an intensification from today into tomorrow. What are they actually forecasting this to become? I'm going to pull up Radar Omega here. I'm going to pull up Radar Omega here. Here it is. So it is forecasted. Oh, that's Fred. That's not helping. There we go. That's not helping either. Projected track. There we go. Okay, we got it. So, luckily this is all already updated. So the National Hurricane Center anticipate this to become 45-mile-per-hour storm and then a 50-mile-per-hour storm as it makes landfall in Puerto Rico. So that's going to be interesting. It said in your video, Grace looked like a tropical wave and not a tropical storm because recon went into an area where the low-level circulation was previously located, developed far north to the CB, so the cone is actually good. The only thing about that is that from the actual Hurricane Hunters Twitter, they found the low-level circulation south of the main convection. And that was in Miss Piggy, which is the reason why they didn't go through the main batch of convection. So that was the only interesting thing that I found out from that, is that, well, they didn't go through the main batch of convection because it wasn't over there. Maybe some sort of mid-level vortex up there and the low-level vortex down a bit further south. That would make a bit sense. But then that would mean that the entire circulation is elongated, and so it's more of a tropical wave, as they implied. So that's the one thing. That's the one thing that, you know, I learned from that, is that he just was straight up, oh, this thing's not doing much. Still 40, 45 system. and then 50 as it heads into the Gulf, so that's interesting. 50-mile-per-hour system as it gets closer and closer towards Mobile, too. Why is it so humid here? Depends upon where you live. Oh, you're in Fayette, Alabama? Well, that's because you guys are down south. You guys are pretty humid over there. But you guys also have a bit of a low-pressure system over there as well, so you guys got a little bit of activity, too. Yeah, you can tell I have the TV on in the background. Actually, I was watching the Baltimore Ravens game. I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan. I went to Gillette Stadium on Thursday. Watched the Patriots versus the Washington football team. But I'm a Ravens fan. I was actually up in I have a before and after the cone, guys. There you go. So this was before, this was after. You can clearly see how this thing is actually. Boom. Look at that. And that's a major difference, too. It's a major difference. Sheesh. LLC located south of the convection was earlier. When they flew in, the LLC actually shifted north into the convection burst. That would explain why the stronger winds were closer towards Guadalupe. I'd probably have to look at another... Oh god, I didn't mean to bring in GR2. I'd probably have to take a look at another recon set. Either that or another ASCAT pass. For whatever reason, the ASCAT pass is for the Caribbean as of right now. Just hasn't been good. Haven't been getting the whole thing, but sheesh. Speaking of sheesh, look at this other wave over here. Other tropical wave that's moving on through. Let's do what we typically do here. And let's just play the GFS and see what the GFS does. Oh, this is the 12Z. We gotta look at the 18Z. 18Z being 2 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. So here's that giant wave. Here's Invest 96L as well. That thing's trying. The wave kind of just deteriorates. So that's one thing. I'm definitely, even though the empirical wave propagation says that there isn't going to be as much activity in the beginning of August, I'm still watching for stuff like this wave here. See how this wave congeals here and pushes on through? I'm still watching for stuff like that, especially as it heads into the Gulf of Mexico here. Because take a look at this. All right. Anytime a tropical wave comes off, it brings a lot of moisture. Always has moisture. Thank you for the subscription. I really do appreciate it, by the way. Really do. So anytime a tropical wave moves through, it brings a lot of moisture, of course, obviously. So if it brings it into the Gulf of Mexico, where the conditions are rather enhanced and the waters are above average, you can get a spike of activity similar to how much thunderstorm activity is over here. And of course, with convergence comes tropical systems, and poof, be gone. But the only thing is it's a bit further out into the model run, so we can't exactly tell, what exactly is going to happen there. Not like we can tell where Grace is going to exactly make landfall either, but just one of those things to where it's a whole lot easier to predict as to around the time frame in which something could start to form, rather than where exactly it is going to go. Do I have merch? Not yet. Had a little bit of merch earlier, but then we had a little bit of an issue with some of our staff and stuff like that. It had nothing to do with money. It's just, some people left, decided to disband a little bit of the merch. So yeah, that's just kind of how it was. But yeah, there's the before and after of that. Have some good westerlies with Grace at the moment, do we? Do we now? Thing I want to try and do here is I want to go over to I'll turn this off. Turn off the cone. I'm gonna turn on the radar here from San Juan. Actually, I don't even have the radar for Guadalupe, so if anyone has the radar for Guadalupe, the website, that would be greatly appreciated because I kind of would like to know that. Radar Guadalupe. Is that it actually? Lamau? Me and Nate shall collab in 2020 for a major hurricane. I wouldn't object to that. Anytime I can collab with other people, I'd be open to it. Excuse me. Have you seen the HWRF with Grace? It's insane. The latest one with the HWRF wasn't as insane. This is the 18Z, and it kind of just was pretty broad because of the shear. But then once it got closer and closer to Florida, of course, you know, then, you know, of course, once it gets closer and closer to Florida, yeah, that's when it becomes insane. But first rule of predicting weather is that it is unpredictable. That is true. At least for tropical weather. Surface plot on Tropical Tidbits would suggest a close. Oh, really? Oh, really? Hold up. Hold up. If that was the case. Oh, that's interesting. Got some 10-knot shear. That's not bad. That's not bad. You know what I honestly need to do? And actually, I might actually ask for the help of the weather community here. I kind of want to see... Well, I kind of want to draw out a time frame in which things start registering with any sort of weather product. So when does the ASCAT satellite passes start to register in? When does each model start to register in? I already have the GFS. I was waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, decided to look at the GFS, and all of a sudden started running at what, 5:30? Is that what it was? No, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Other known as like 10Z, 1030Z. So, if we can try and figure out which model run starts when, like NAM, HWRF, Euro, HRRR if we still use that thing, RAP, stuff like that. All sorts of these different models, satellites. We can figure out, what times they can actually register in. Probably be a whole lot easier for us to, even people to make videos. Or even gather data. You know what I mean? Get the information out a whole lot easier. GFS 18Z has been coming out at very different times lately, has it? I haven't been paying a lot of attention to the runs in the mid part of the day, or at least as of late, because the past week I've been up in New England and I've been preoccupied by some other stuff. But of course I'll be monitoring it a lot closer here. Oh, of course. So an ASCAT. So there you go. ASCAT just came out. Let's see if we can just pull it up for ourselves here. Of course, ASCAT has to come out now. That's not it. There we go. And oh wait, that's Fred. Forehead. There it is. There's Fred. That's Grace. And that's a bit of an elongated center area of low pressure. I mean, you did have your westerlies earlier, but look at this. That is pretty elongated. See you, Justin. Thanks for coming out. That is pretty elongated. You have a lot of convection wrapping around on the western side here, though. If you can start to get your westerlies to start to really wrap around a bit, then yeah. With the new tropical storms in the Atlantic, should the East Coast be worried about tropical storms? I would say probably towards the latter stages of August, if there were any. I think these main tropical storms will mainly go into the Gulf of Mexico. So that'll be the good news for you all. But I think you guys could potentially see some stuff with some of these low pressure systems, the severe weather events that'll be coming across the country. And that could potentially spell danger for people along the coast of the Carolinas and maybe even Virginia later on. But yeah, you got some pretty interesting 25 knot surface winds here. The one thing here with this ASCAT passing is that, as I said, very elongated here. But a lot of these winds actually aren't as strong as it once was. And we saw an ASCAT pass earlier. I think we saw it earlier. If not, I'll show it to you all. But we saw it earlier, and the winds were a bit stronger. They were in upwards of 35 knots. So that would be about 40 miles per hour. Now with this band here, this convection on the western side, not exactly as strong here. So, I mean, this thing could be trying to cycle up, trying to wrap up its convection a bit. Maybe trying to get it a little bit more organized. But this thing is definitely not taking the cake here. I will say that much. So, if you look up KNMI ASCAT, should be the top links, has more reliable wind vectors. That would be great. KNMI. Let's look it up. Yeah, it's a little bit better. Not that one. See if I can find it. About there. No, it's too far north. Here. There we go. A little bit better-ish. Kind of. It's really hard to find. Yeah, it's really hard to find here. Still shows the same thing, which is a note for the future. Okay. I appreciate that. Do you think this is going to impact Haiti? Heart goes out for them? I do believe it will impact Haiti. 100%. Which is the reason why I'm a little bit concerned for them. Because especially with, you know, I think we've all heard about the earthquake at this point. So the fact that most of these people won't even have infrastructure to shelter out in. Yeah, it's just very unfortunate. But it's supposed to be forecasted. The good news is for Haiti is that by the time it gets to Haiti, it'll be like a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm as a ceiling. So it won't be significant like a hurricane. That's the good news. The bad news is that it could create some torrential downpours, and because you've had your infrastructure that has been demolished, I'll say, in some areas, it's going to be very hard for people to find shelter, especially if there's localized flooding in some of these areas, which there will be. So that's the unfortunate part about this. If we take a look at the timings here for I'm gonna try and see if I can find the best one here for you all. We'll go to Grace. There you go. So if we take a look at the timings, according to this model, it seems as if this system might actually go a bit further north of Haiti, which, you know, that's cool and all if it was, you know, for Haiti. That's good for Haiti, but then according to this model, this thing could progress over towards the Bahamas, even Florida, as like a hurricane, and that's not exactly the best case scenario. But you know, if we take a look at something else like I don't know why people have been using the HMON as of late, but minus well, it'll give us a decent idea. Yeah, this is a good idea here. So you can see how this tropical system now ends up heading towards Haiti, and you can see the amount of rain that actually goes into the Dominican Republic first. And even as it continues to move closer and closer, you can see how this will eventually progress. So look at that. Look at how much rain goes across Haiti here. This is the entire country of Haiti. I believe these islands are actually a part of it too. But look at how much rain is here. That's some massive amounts of rain. So that's just the one thing there. That's the unfortunate thing. But then the other thing that I mentioned before is that if it doesn't hit Haiti, then it could do this. It's not exactly, you know, it may not end up being a hurricane per se. Could be a hurricane, of course, but according to this model run, it said that it could potentially turn into a hurricane and move in there. HMON is like the NAM 12 kilometer, but for tropics. So that's kind of reserved. So is it like a good mid-range model, I guess? That forecasts mid-range? Is it good for like track, I guess? It's the best way to put it. Do you think it could hit Texas? It has a possibility of it hitting Texas, but I think if it were to hit Texas, I think the ceiling of where it could hit, as far west as it could go, definitely would have to be Corpus Christi. Further north, it would have to, like, further north and then further east would probably be more of a likelihood, higher likelihood to be hit. But anywhere further south of, like, Corpus Christi, very small chance. Although it could get completely bamboozled. The APM National Hurricane Center update and the 18Z came out during my video, so I had to explain how to take it with a grain of salt because of the misplacement. 11 p.m. and 0Z will be more reasonable. Well, yeah, the only thing about 0Z, though, is that it comes out a little bit later than others. So the GFS 0Z will end up coming out here in an hour. It'll be at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I mean, I get the HWRF being a rapid intensification bias. Yeah, that's the thing right there. Good use compared to other more trustworthy models. Okay, so I mean, I can't remember what Brendan told me. Not the Brendan you're thinking about. We have another Brendan at our server who explained best what the faults for the HMON was. Can't remember exactly what it was. I might have to ask him again, but he knows a lot about the models and their faults and how you can use it into your to your advantage when you're making predictions and forecasts. Yeah, I have no clue. Zerozy Icon is running right now. Ooh, fun. Yeah, I actually have no clue how to get the radar for Guadalupe. Anyone have any idea? Just for future reference, so I can show off on my stream for later. If not, that's fine. But lived through 3 hurricanes. 2 of them, Dad went out to a football game. One of them was when he was 1 years old. He's about to turn 2. Sheesh. Yeah, my grandparents lived over in Florida for most of their lives, so they kind of survived through like a couple of them. They lived in Palm Beach, and so Andrew's a good name. Oh my God, it's Morgan. But yeah, that's the one. That's the main thing right there. Icon isn't the best, however, it could be very good for tracks. That's what I noticed. Icon's pretty good for the track of the system. In regards to intensity, it's got to pick up the thing first. It's got to find out if it's going to become a tropical system or not first. All models except HWRF bring this into the Gulf as an open wave or a minimal tropical cyclone. Not far-fetched. I mean, I don't think it's far-fetched either. The only thing about it is that, as I said, I'm really concerned for that reorganization on the northern end of Cuba and then moving on through and intensifying that way. And what that means for that is that this could potentially be not exactly a hurricane, but it'd be higher than typical tropical storm status. Like the low-end tropical storm. It'd be like mid-end tropical storm here. And then this could be potentially high-end tropical storm and maybe moving in as a hurricane somewhere over here. That's my concern. Now, of course, I don't have any model evidence to back that up. I just have analogs in that instance. We don't have a trough here that's keeping this back like it was for Fred. All right, the Tut is over here. So the Tut will be keeping this tropical system down here for the most part. It'll have a little bit of wiggle room to work with. But yeah. That's my concern there. And I think that's what the National Hurricane Center, the center of their cone is off the coast of Cuba too. So that's also a little bit of concerning as well. But yeah, that's my hot take. That's my takes for this. Oh yeah. 100% it will benefit the storm. It'll keep it in check for the most part too. Right within there. And by the way, all right, I just want to make this clear here too. I know there's a bunch of people out there who are, a lot smarter than me with tropical systems. I'm willing to learn more and more, all right? But I'm also implying the knowledge that I know. And, I'm not saying I'm a know-it-all or whatever. It's just more or less to where we communicate weather, and then we all try and distribute the knowledge that we all agree upon and try and get the information out to try and help people. That's the main thing right there. So the one thing that we can say for sure, all right, I firmly believe for myself that it could reform if it goes into Cuba. It could reform on the northern side, if not just parallel along the side. But the big thing that we know here for certain is that Haiti, Dominican Republic, Hispaniola will be impacted again. And it won't be from an earthquake. It'll be from a tropical system. again. So, say 10% chance for a Texas landfall. What about you? I'd say that's about right. Maybe a 5%. I kind of foresee this staying somewhere in here a little bit. I'd have to look a little bit more at the models based off of this trough that moves on through the US at the end of next week. But yeah. Um yeah, this was the thumbnail I had for the one day I had. I appreciate everyone who came out to the live stream, by the way. 12,869 subscribers. Yeah, I really do appreciate that. All right. I know my channel's been in a little bit of a slump, but I'm going to try and fix that for you all. You know, I'm not putting ads on tropical updates at night. Because that's, you know, it's a bit of a live stream, all right? I feel like it should be open to the public and free for people to, you know, engage. Shouldn't be a time where I'm going to be a money grabbing, you know. That'll be in the morning. I'll be the money grabber all I want. Although a lot of people do not like it when I put ads in the middle of my video. So I might not do that. But point being is there. Is that I'll be trying to cover this all for you all. I know a lot of other people on YouTube will be able to do so too. You know, Adrian is a good person. He's in chat. He talks about this as well. He knows a little bit more about tropical weather than I do. But yeah. There's a couple other there's plethora of other people on YouTube too. The one thing I do have to mention though, all right? The one thing that I do have to say for people out on exploring YouTube for information is pay attention to the information that's distributed to you, okay? I think that's just the best way to say it. I can't say anything else besides that. You don't even control the ads in your videos. You just leave to how YouTube does it. That's how I used to. And then people started complaining. People started complaining and saying, oh, don't put ads in the middle of your video. And I'm like, less money for me, but okay, that's fine. What I may do, honestly, is I may just put ads. I might actually just, you know, organize as to where the ads are specifically. It'll be in like spots. It won't be in like key spots of talking points. It'll just be, you know, from stuff to stuff. If you get what I mean. Like talking point to talking point. In the middle of each talking point, that's what I'll put in. Evacuation order. What are these evacuation orders from the British Columbia? Like, why are they evacuating? Why are they evacuating? Excuse me. Oh, it's a wildfire. Oh. Oh. That's unfortunate. You got Discord? I sure do. If you want to join my Discord server, feel free to do so. But the other thing is that Discord server is pretty professional, so you're not gonna want to like, you know, goof around too much. You can be somewhat semi-professional. You just can't, you know, be an idiot. You know what I mean? Unless if you're me, then of course I'm a certified idiot, so I can do whatever I want. But yeah, I do have a Discord. People want to contact me. My Discord name is in the description. Yeah, wildfires in British Columbia. Got a evacuation order over there. Honestly, wildfires are pretty interesting to track too. Like that and earthquakes, live earthquake coverage. You know, if I was home today, you can bet money that, you know, bet all the money in the world that I would have created a live stream for the earthquake for Haiti. All right. And then probably set up like a fundraiser of some sort or whatever, which I still can do. But I'm also going to be pretty busy for the next week as well, preparing for some things. So I might not actually be able to. Which means I'll just probably, you know, if I really wanted to do something like that, I just want to, I would probably have to donate to, like, you know, Red Cross or something like that. Which, of course, I think that's a big recommendation to anyone. You should probably I should recommend donating to any sort of charity organization to areas impacted by natural disasters. That's the big thing right there. Seems legit. Nate 2020 Easter outbreak. True facts. That was a crazy time for me. Can you imagine if I started making videos then? How many people would be watching my channel? How many subscribers I probably would have had if I just kept up my channel? That'd be crazy. But that was a crazy time. Bassfield so tornado. And that thing scared the crap out of me too. Didn't know what else to do in that instance besides tell people, hey, if you stay indoors, or, well, not to stay indoors, if you try to look for this thing, you're probably going to die. Because it's true. Thing is so strong. I don't know what else to say. Nate gained like 2K subs that day. Yeah, I did. I was so surprised when that happened too. Well, the channel's kind of trash. I mean, it kind of is. It depends. Depends upon who's on. Depends upon who's on. I won't say who's bad and who's not. I'm just going to say it depends upon who's on. Let's track Fred. Let's see. See what's up with Fred. Best moment was November 2020. Man, I got crazy views. I gotta say, I think my favorite time live streaming, not because it was, you know, a bad situation, but, you know, because that's when I felt like I was truly banding together with the people that I originally was with. It was in 2019. It was the Dallas tornado. The whole fiasco where people in Dallas were complaining of how, well, no, everyone in the weather community was complaining of how the network in Dallas wouldn't switch off the Sunday Night Football game for tornado coverage, even though it was like an EF3 tornado that went through downtown, or actually the northern parts of Dallas. And I covered that live. I had a couple meteorologists with me that was talking with me. I still know them. I still have contacts with them. I have a couple people who are in my Discord server actually that was covering with me that night as well. It was a crazy night, just how we were watching it progress from beginning to end, how that thing went through. That was probably my favorite moment streaming. So, someone asked if we can track Fred. And we shall do that, and then I'm going to head off for the evening. You posted the radar link I wanted? Where at? Where at? Is it in the Discord server? If it's in the Discord server, then Monka ass. I don't know where it is, though. Yeah, I've got no clue where it is. Well, while that goes about, you guys can see a little bit of how broad Fred's rotation is. Look at this. Look at how broad this general spin is. Very weak westerlies here, indicating that this isn't exactly, you know, all too organized at the moment, as we kind of anticipated. Very weak westerlies, but you still have some strong northerlies and some strong easterlies here, creating a bit of a kind of overlapping characteristic that you sometimes see with tropical waves and even subtropical storms in some instances. Did I cover Hurricane Laura last year? Yes, I did. I covered most of the tropical systems last year, I believe, besides Sally. I wanted to cover Sally last year, but I was just too busy. But yeah, I covered most stuff. I think I covered everything that hit like Lake Charles. I think I covered everything that hit Louisiana last year, actually. From a tropical perspective. Sally didn't hit Louisiana. But oh, chat. I'm going to post a poll, all right? And it's, should I chase tropical systems this year, or should I cover them live on YouTube? All right? Chase live analysis. And I want to get your thoughts on it, because my mom, I was talking to my mom about it, and I said I want the experience of chasing a tropical system. If I could get in the eye, I'll try and get in the eye as best as possible. But the other thing is, you know, I understand that I get a lot of views on YouTube. People watch my channel. And people rely on me for information, too. So I don't want to disappoint that either. So I created a poll there for people to do. What I was thinking, if this was if it was really close, is that if there were like tropical storms or even like Category 1 hurricanes, I'd go chase them, right? But like if they're anything stronger, like borderline Category 1, Category 2, then I'd stay home. Of course, that gray area would be Category 1, Category 2, whether I'd stay home or I'd chase. But, you know, I would love to chase. You see, some people are saying, why don't you just do both? Well, I can live stream me chasing, all right? That's not the issue. The issue, what I'm asking here is, should I do live analysis of radar and, you know, hurricane hunter analysis and basically this giant watch party of this tropical system making landfall and having live cameras and setup and stuff like that, you know, in and around where it's being impacted? Or should I chase myself and show you all what the impacts are right within that area? That's the thing right there. I know Cat 1s and Cat 2s aren't exactly bad. I know that much. But I still, you know, eventually I'm going to want to chase that. Eventually I'm going to want to. Stayed in Laura. She was a low Cat 5. It was worse. Would do it again. It had gusty winds and upwards of low Cat 5. But it'd be very unique if I chase. I would agree. I don't see a whole lot of people on YouTube doing that. Live streaming and chasing at the same time. Well, tropical systems, I should say. Which is the reason why, you know, that's kind of what I want to do. And I even have my weather station on top of my car as well. So I'd be able to give you guys, you know, the live stuff. The live conditions as to what all is happening outside my car. But it's just, you know, I also want to expand my audience rapidly. I want to try and, of course, get more of an audience towards me. Because what YouTuber would not? And, of course, I want to grow as quickly as possible. And so my thought process is probably won't be able to do that if I chase. If people were watching the live analysis of me talking about the tropical system right there, probably would be able to. Yeah, as I said, Lara's Cat 4, Cat 5 gusts. I had a drop zone with Cat 4, with Cat 5 wins, but that was most likely a gust as well. I remember going crazy over that because I was like, oh no. Oh no. You get tons of views if you posted first-hand views. That was a thing too. Did I call Laura a bus? Wasn't even forecast to be a Cat 1 at first? No. I don't call tropical systems bust because I'm not well versed in that enough to say whether it was a bust or not. As a matter of fact, I don't think anyone should be calling tropical systems busts. Even if it, like, severely downplays, I think the word bust should be limited to only tropical systems. Can't be used for winter because winter's too hard to predict as well. It's very hard to depict as to where that freezing line is going to end up. For severe weather, if it's a 10% chance for tornadoes or above, that's when you use the word bust. Or even if it's a moderate risk for severe weather. All right, any enhanced risk happens a dime a dozen. Don't need to use the word bust because it happens. Someone in the chat said that? Yeah, then that probably would make sense. But I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that. But yeah, this is Fred. Fred's having a whale of a time. So a lot of people say live analysis, which is probably what I'm going to do. Actually, what I'm probably going to do for this year is, unless if I actually have an opportunity to chase the East Coast, say we get a tropical system here that ends up forming and goes up this way. Unless if I get an opportunity to chase the Carolinas, I'm going to stay home and I'm going to just cover it live on radar and stuff like that. I think that's the best way to do it. And that's until I get more of a following base. So if I get, exponential following base this year, say I, get higher, say I get pretty high subscriber amounts, then I might, storm chase a bunch next year. But I think the furthest I will go to storm chase is here. I probably won't go to the peninsula. I probably won't go to the Panhandle. And even further west than that. Don't think I will. I think the window of opportunity would have to be the coast. Because I have people who live here in Wilmington, all right? That's the thing. I know people. And I did chase these Isaias, Adrian. That's the funny thing. I did. And I went on the barrier island, too. I went out on Tom's River, and it was great. Went to Seaside Heights. We saw a, we saw a Ferris wheel that was getting pushed by the wind. There you go, the Casino Pier, right here. This Ferris wheel right here was getting pushed by the wind, and it was great. Me and Ethan were out there. We even saw parts of the roof fall off while we were over there as well. So, yeah, we chased Isaiah, so that was fun. We were contemplating chasing the tornado that went through here, but then we realized that once you kind of get over here in Delaware, you don't exactly have a lot of room to go. So if this tornado goes this way, if it goes this way, if it goes this way, it just was not exactly the safest place to be. I mean, we could have went north, but then we would have gotten caught up in all this traffic or whatever. So we just decided to go over here, try and catch some of these spinning rotations that were heading off of the coast. But then we kind of realized that the only areas that were really going to get impacted was Wildwood over to Atlantic City, and that was pretty sad. But then we went full send to Tom's River, and we got sandblasted. You know, we saw some debris. That was fun. We drove through the entirety of New Jersey to see a bunch of trees down. That was fun. But what spots in the US have had the most weather busts? Southwestern Kansas. No one can convince me otherwise. Southwestern Kansas. Dodge City has been, Dodge City and Garden City, it's had its moments. But Southwestern Kansas, for the most part, if you look historically as to how many moderates it's had, it's flopped a lot. Northeast at least performs sometimes. But Southwestern Kansas. Like, if you even think of it this way, they had like 3 moderates last year, and all of them fell flat on their face. Nothing happened. Yeah, Iowa was pretty bad this year. All right, this year it was pretty bad. But if you think back as to every other year, it's not bad. Got some strong storms in Maryland at the moment. Yeah, Maryland's pretty interesting. They got a lot of these bands of storms that are kind of moving on through. We had this cold front that kind of pushed about. Iowa carried July tornado reports though, and I wished I live streamed most of that too. That would have been. There's so much stuff that I've missed this summer. It's just kind of infuriating. But who knew? A lot of people were complaining that Iowa didn't get anything, and then all of a sudden, July happened. Even, beginning of August. A lot of activity over there. So sheesh. All right. I think we should probably chill out for the evening. I'm probably going to go to bed here soon. I'll get up tomorrow, and then I'll upload a YouTube video. It'll be a very short and brief YouTube video. It'll basically give people an update as to what all has happened, where it's heading, and what the impacts are. Okay? I won't go into much detail based off of the environment around it. All right? Or at least I won't go into much detail of the environment around it. I'll just go based off of where it's heading and what it's going to do. Where's the link for the radar site? Is it in my Discord server or no? Doesn't look like it's in my Discord server, so I have no clue what you're talking about, my friend. Yeah, I'm trying to find the Guadalupe radar here. I don't know where it is. That's definitely not. Oh, so there's your got a little bit of circulation right within there. Be a little bit. Kind of interesting. New hot tower in Grace, really? Really? Grace, you had to do this before I went out. Oh. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, look at that. So much of the convection was right about here. That's bad area to circle. Let's do that again. Right about there. You can see how it was kind of on the northwestern side of the storm here. All right. And then you can see this new initiation here, which I would presume to be on the northeastern side of the storm. And if that's the case, then we gotta really watch out for this thing. Let's, you know what, before I go here, said I was gonna go earlier. Now I'm actually gonna go here in a bit. Before I go, I want to take a look at the sea surface temperatures here. Oceanic. Go down to, where's the Atlantic? Basin? Central? Yeah, Central's fine. That's a very hot sea surface temperatures there. Very hot. What about... tropical cyclone heat potential? Oh yeah, so there's definitely some... there's definitely some over in the Caribbean. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think this thing... I mean, this is what we were talking about, guys. This is the window of opportunity for it to intensify. Right here. Window of opportunity is right there. I think you could go, would be a reasonable bout. They're saying 50-mile-per-hour storm. 50 or 60? I think 60 is a good ceiling. If it goes 60, then I'm really concerned for its potential reorganization, or if it just skids Cuba. If that's the case, then I'm really concerned for that area. Like, for a potential intensification. But I think 50 miles per hour is a good bet. Definitely think so. For all the people who just subscribed, I really do appreciate it. Really do appreciate all the support. So yeah, I think we're going to head off here. I might actually be chilling in some chilling in some Discord servers here, just talking a bit. I might. But if people want to ask me questions and stuff like that, feel free to ask me on Discord. Feel free to also DM me on Twitter and stuff like that. Also, all hail NATOcast. NATOcast is doing something right. I honestly should create a podcast episode where I talk about NATOcast a little bit, because NATOcast actually has started to impress me. I'm starting to really like this algorithm here that this model is starting to provide. So sheesh. Yeah, Ravens won today. It was good. It was really good. Do I think Fred is going to be as bad as Tropical Storm Irma here in northeast Georgia? I don't think so. I think Fred will most likely deteriorate more and more as it moves over land. That land interaction tends to kill off tropical systems, just as it did with Fred to begin with. So as it moves over that same land, or different type of land, but still somewhat similar in nature. I think it'll begin to deteriorate further and further. Yeah, I think you might be right, Adrian. The thing might actually be trying to continue to reorganize further north, which if that's the case, yeah, I'm really concerned with that in northern Cuba. So the big takeaway here, guys, is that big takeaway here is we got a tropical system. Let's move over to satellite imagery for you all. Actually, we'll make it a little bit easier for you all. Atlantic Basin, long wave IR. There you go. Okay, so the big thing here for everyone is we got a tropical system that is here that's heading towards Puerto Rico. We also have another one that's Fred that's heading towards Mobile. And there's already tropical storm watches in effect out there. So people along the coast from Gulfport over to Pensacola, even to Panama City, Apalachicola, guys need to watch out. I'd say specifically people from Pensacola and further east than that. I think you guys could definitely be impacted 100%. High likelihood. Louisiana, you know, from New Orleans and west, I think you guys are in the clear. Pensacola, as I said, Pensacola East, you guys are probably going to be impacted. The gray area right now, the gray area that I'm trying to figure out as to whether or not they're going to be impacted or not, is Gulfport all the way over to Mobile. I think Mobile could definitely be impacted. Gulfport's a bit of a half and half. I think they're going to get thunderstorms, but they definitely won't be as impacted as significantly as these other areas over here. So that's the big thing. And I'll go... Zero Z GFS is out? No way. No way. Can I actually mark my book? Hold up. Hold up. Pivotal. Models. It is. What the heck is this? Let's log in. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. I need to see it. I'm sorry. So there's Fred. Here's Grace. It starts to consolidate again. 84 hours out and it consolidates. There it is. Okay, that's fun. So, that's, kind of what I was talking about earlier. That's the good news there, though. I can write down when the GFS is coming out. Start times, GFS. This would be 12. Yeah, typing that out. New. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing right there. You can see all the convection that starts to gather. It's fighting a little bit with the land interaction there. New scan. Lot of rain here. Look at this rain that's really starting to ramp up. Let's take a sounding here. Let's see. There's not really a lot of dry air with this, so that's good. Do have some interesting shear here, though. Do have some interesting shear. But it doesn't seem to be fully organized with this. Zero Z GFS has recon data in it, so that would make sense. so we're not going to see a major damage in the south. Hopefully other places got earthquakes. So the thing of it is that with Haiti, they're probably going to see localized flooding. Unfortunately, their infrastructure has been damaged significantly, and so they're not going to be able to get a whole lot of shelter from these storms. These storms are 100% going to be heading over them in order to get to us, I should say. So the big thing there is that, can they seek higher shelter, higher ground? That's the key thing there. If they can do that, then hopefully they should be fine. But the only issue with that is, of course, the recovery efforts are going to take longer than just 2 days to prepare for. And that's right around when the storm hits, next 48 hours. So that's it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate with that. Meanwhile, in the south, for the United States, it doesn't look like we're going to have a major hurricane here, according to this. You know, of course, could always be wrong. Could always be wrong. You know, stuff is never set in stone officially, unless if it's a day out. Well, I wouldn't even say a day out. I'd say a half a day out. That's how inconsistent things can get with weather. But oh, it trends back into Cuba. So with all this moisture here, you could either get a relocation here or here. According to the GFS, this is where the center area of low pressure is. You got all these bands around. Let's take a sounding right here. A lot of calm shear. Got a lot of strong. Well, not a lot of strong. Got some mid-level shear there, too. So I think the big thing here to watch out for, as I said, last words right here, is how it progresses after it moves through Hispaniola and moves through Cuba. If it can get a bit further north of Cuba, it'll be able to intensify further, and that's when we need to watch out for the southern portion of the peninsula there. So I'll inform you guys tomorrow morning. I'll make a video for you guys tomorrow morning as to whether or not this thing will continue to move on through. I think the video will most likely be uploaded as late as 10 o'clock Eastern. I will try to upload it earlier if I can. But if I can't, I'm sorry. So that's the plan there. That's the dealio. All right. Well, if you guys haven't subscribed already, please be sure to do so. Because I will be doing tropical updates every 8 o'clock in the evening from now onwards. All right. I'll be giving you guys updates as to however long I will be live streaming during that tropical update. It's unknown, but I will be giving you guys updates every single time until the end of hurricane season. All right. So please be sure to stick around. All right. I will be also uploading a video tomorrow morning. And then, of course, when these tropical systems do make landfall, I will be live streaming their landfall. Now, if you were going to ask me if I were going to live stream Fred's landfall, well, maybe. All right. What I mean by live streaming their landfall is I typically live stream hurricane landfalls. All right, tropical storms, not as much. You know, I might do it as a rare occasion, but you know, I think personally, tropical storms are more or less kind of like severe thunderstorms in general. And hurricanes, once you get to the hurricane status, that's a bit more of a strong, severe storm to a potential tornado. You know, you can compare it to with that. So yeah, that's kind of my thought process with that. So thank you guys so much for watching here tonight. I hope you guys have a great evening, and I will see you all tomorrow. So peace out, everyone. Turn on notifications, please.